Welcome to the Asking Why podcast. I'm your host, Clint Davis. I'm a marriage and family therapist and licensed professional counselor trained in trauma and addiction. The Asking Why podcast is for anyone on a journey of healing and restoration. If you are searching for answers to life's questions and want to learn more about root causes from a psychological and theological mix, this show is for you. In this podcast, myself and a co-host from Clint Davis Counseling and Integrative Wellness will interview guests on a wide range of topics in order to get down to the heart of the problems facing our world and understand why things happen and how to change the world and ourselves for the better. Want to learn more tips and tricks to living a healthy lifestyle? Visit us at Clint Davis Counseling and Integrative Wellness on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to meet our staff or book a speaker, go to clintdaviscounseling.com. Thanks for listening and be sure to subscribe today. All right, Asking Why, episode 51. We have with us today James Lowder from Southern Roots Dentistry. And so James is a friend of mine, and we go to church together. We're in the same Sunday school, and we've had Preston, his brother, on, and Sarah. They own the baking company, and we've had them on for the episode. And so Preston and I, as kids, are on soccer team, and we've been talking about what you've been doing and just how you're growing your business, and kind of looking at our practice and just the cool thing of people our age doing the parallel process of doing their thing and trying to be in Shreveport and in America and all those kind of things. And so when you came in the B group, I was like, I didn't know if you're a Christian or, and even with Preston and Sarah, like, you get to know people and you never want to be intrusive, but you're like, what's their story?
Right.
And we lived by them for a few years, and we kind of knew their faith, but we weren't real sure. And then when you came in, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Because that's always a thing I'm thinking about for getting to know people and discipleship and podcast. And not that I won't have people on here. I've had people on here who aren't Christian, but it's easy. It's an easy conversation when it's both.
For sure.
And so I think interesting things come out, and our listeners at least love the feedback they've been is they love hearing people's stories and how their business came about and how God worked in it and how it's working in it and what, the plans for the future.
Yeah.
And so all that stuff. So
yeah,
welcome,
thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it, for sure.
Absolutely. So tell us, who you are and kind of about Southern Dentistry and how you got there, and take, we're on a podcast, so take your time.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, thanks once again for having me. I really do appreciate it. So, I'm from Shreveport. I went to Byrd High School. I feel like that's always identifier, right? You guys, what high school did you go to?
Right, especially here.
I'm a proud Byrd turd, and so yeah, Byrd. I went to Byrd, and born and raised here. Some awesome parents. I've got a brother, and so I really have it's a small family, but it's a great one. So went to LSU in Baton Rouge. Had some fun there, and met a lot of cool people. I guess kind of going back to high school, I did Young Life as a kid, and just that's kind of how I feel like I always knew Jesus, but I didn't really know him. And so I think that Young Life really helped me develop that relationship to kind of get to know him in that aspect. And because of that, when I went to college, I knew that I kind of wanted to be a part of that for other high schoolers that are in the Baton Rouge area. And so I went through a process called Plunge, is what they call it, where I was going to start to become a leader. And that is actually where I met my wife, Katie.
Oh, yeah?
That's
awesome.
So
shout out to Katie.
Shout out to Katie. She's the best, man. So we met at a Christmas party over in Edward Cullen doll. Twilight was kind of big then. And so she thought Edward Cullen was cool. So I just brought the funniest thing I knew in Walmart, and that's what I could find. So it's cool. Fate kind of brought that together. I didn't meet her until after she got the gift.
Or was that like a white elephant or something?
White elephant gift, yep.
That's hilarious.
And so met her through that process, and really, kind of was able to develop a friendship more so than anything first. And so kind of years went on, and we started dating, and we got married right out of college.
Now you're skipping over the mascot part.
I like to skip over that part.
I was wondering.
But yeah, so that's actually why I didn't end up fully plunging all the way, because of the mascot program and the time that it took. And I felt like that was kind of what I really wanted to do. I felt like that was kind of where, you know, I guess looking back, kind of where God really wanted me at that point, being able to kind of help grow that program, but also be able to love on the guys in that program too, and just kind of, you know, kind of have a larger role in that area. So that was kind of a cool thing.
I'm going to dig a little bit. Why do you like skipping over the mascot part?
Man, it's like part of the brotherhood. It's like, you know, it's like your team, Mike, you know, so you don't really talk about it, you know, it's just kind of like
a private thing.
I mean, some people are super like out about it, but I mean, I'm pretty, I don't know. Like, I think it's a really cool thing. The one thing I really loved about it is the fact that, you know, when you're doing it, nobody knows that it's you. Yeah. And so that's a really humbling thing. And so stepping out of that, you know, you didn't need
your friends don't know it's you.
The friends knew. Okay. Yeah. Friends knew.
You just mean couldn't like hide the other mag. Hundreds of thousands of people.
For sure.
So so people who aren't listening. So Preston, he went to LSU, and Preston's his brother. My bad. And so James went to LSU.
It's okay.
And
he was cool. You can mistake me from him
that's
all
right.
the time. It's okay.
He was the mascot for LSU, so Louisiana State University football team, which is Mike the Tiger. So that's pretty awesome.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers. I know we got to take the GAH off now, I guess.
For sure.
It changes coaches so much. Anyway, yeah, that's been something. I didn't even know that until, recently. I think I saw it on social media or something, like you post like an old picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure if it was awesome. You know, as a therapist, I'm always thinking, I wonder what that was like. Like, I wonder, you know, what that lifestyle was like. And I think about that with sports. I see so many people who have these, what people would say, oh, I want that. I want to be that. I want to do that. Then I see them and they're like, yeah, you don't want this. Yeah. But it sounds like it was actually
it was
really
awesome.
The
experiences that I got to experience were crazy. You know, traveling to different cities, different stadiums, different fans, meeting a bunch of random people, the experiences, like being on the field for pregame, is one of the most electrifying, since that's the word of today, moments. It's just it's surreal. I bet. With the band. So that's a really cool part of it. But it's just I am forever, and I still help out. I still do some coaching, as you will, or just kind of give him some insight and input just on where the program continues to go. And I wasn't perfect by any means, but it's a lot of cool things. It's a lot of cool things.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So it was a cool thing to be a part of, for sure.
All right. We'll move on from the mascot. So you met your wife, and so you're obviously you were doing all that when y'all were together, and then you got married when you graduated from LSU.
We graduated the next week. We got married.
So what was your undergrad in?
So I started off in biology with a minor in chemistry and art.
Did you know you wanted to do what you do now then?
I did. Okay. I wanted to be a dentist for sure.
Well, take me back then. When would that? Way back. Yeah, when did that start?
So I think a lot of general dentists, they kind of start out wanting to be an orthodontist, because that's where most, I think anybody, will go into the dental field, a lot of people want to be an orthodontist. They're cool. They get to hang out. They see 1 million people a day. They don't really.
They're not poor.
Yeah, they're not poor. They don't really do too much. They just walk in and say, "Oh yeah, let's move this over." But I know now that there's a ton of behind the scenes work that gets done. But at that moment, you're like, "Oh yeah, do this," and it's done. You know. So I always loved the people aspect. That's kind of what brought me in. But kind of things started to change for me, specifically in college. I'd say more so. I got to intern at a place in Baton Rouge, aesthetic dentistry. Dr. Bankhead and Dr. Rauber, they're awesome people. That's why I'm giving them a shout out. But they really showed me like that intentional relationship based dentistry that that I wanted. That I felt like was more important. So kind of going into dentistry, like I knew that that's where my heart was set. And as a general dentist, you get to meet people, develop relationships with them, and then grow with them with their life. It's not like a specialist where, some do continue to grow or continue to follow up with their patients or see their kids and whatnot. But it's the one place where you can come in, and I get to watch a 4-year-old become a 14-year-old, become a 20-year-old, start having kids. And Not there yet, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's just a cool dynamic. And so, having that relationship based, practice was kind of what I wanted. So that's kind of the start of, I guess, the general dentistry aspect of it, why,
Yeah.
molding me into what I wanted to do.
Has that always been your personality to be like relational?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that I've always been,
Obviously not an introvert.
for sure, but it's crazy. I think that in certain circumstances, in larger groups of people, I tend to be an introvert, and a lot of people say, "Well, no way, you're not." But I am, because I think at that point in time, I'm more kind of closed off, and I'm more so trying to take in everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think that I don't know. I having those, I don't know. I think just having that ability to kind of sit back and listen, is tough, but it's opened my eyes to a lot, right? Like just being able to just kind of listen. So, but yeah, but I would say that I'm a little bit extrovert kind of in a group of people.
Yeah. I mean, we twist that up too in our culture.
Yeah.
Knowing what that even means. I mean, it's more about where you get your energy, but
Right.
I'm the same way. I feel like I love to talk. I get a lot of energy from stuff, but I mean, there's plenty of times where I'm like, I need to recharge and go sit by myself or read or like check out or,
For sure.
especially once you have kids, as you know. Yeah. And so how many kids do you have?
3 boys.
That's right.
Yeah.
I knew you had. I wasn't sure what the third one was. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. 3 boys.
Bro, I'm with you with all boys. It's wild.
It's great.
Yeah.
I would not change anything. I mean, I think that, where we're at in life is like you get home and you're like, it's witching hour begins, and and when it's an hour, it's like hours.
Yeah,
But
5:30 to like 6:45 is the longest hour and 15 minutes.
just really until they hit their head on that pillow. But
Right.
but at the same time, in the moment, you can get frustrated, right? But
No, man, I'm chill.
You're pretty
Like,
chill.
No,
There's no frustration at all.
there-
You like playing
there's
rock, paper,
definitely,
scissors.
yeah.
And you're
There's
good to go.
definitely yelling and get in the bath. And
Yeah.
quit touching your brother and get off
For
his
sure.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
every night.
every night. But it's like, and then once they put that head on that pillow and they don't talk anymore, you're like, gosh, I just want to go in there and just like hang out.
Yep,
I just want to go like,
it's not enough time.
not enough time. And so I think that it's important for us as parents to like really kind of take in those moments, of, crazy.
It is, man. It's finding that balance. I mean, we talk about that all the time on here, and just with people, just running your practice, doing your thing. I know you get caught up in that, and you're ready to come home and kind of decompress, and then you got to serve. But I also try to say, it's also the shortest period of our entire life. Like
Sure.
I know your boys are little, like mine are. What's your oldest? 5?
5.
Yeah. So like, man, Grady's 7. And from 5 to 7, like just the leap. And I'm sure parents who listen to me are like, just wait, when they're 10, 12, how big they're going to be. But it's so short. I was ironing the other day, tearing up. Just they were being so loud, and I was trying to get ready for work. And I was like, they're not doing anything wrong. They're just playing.
Right.
But yet it's just like, man, all that noise is going to be gone like real quick.
It's crazy.
Not even when they're out of the house, like when they're 10 and when they're 12, they're not
Right.
going to be running around being insane people. There'll be other issues to deal with.
Right.
But so I try to hold that, like just enjoy it, take it in. I mean, last night I was climbing in bed. I'm thinking, man, it's Groundhog's Day sometimes. Like put Jude in there, read to him. JC reads to Grady. We switch. I lay down with Grady. He's like, Daddy, and we pray. And it's like the same thing.
I want a snack.
Oh yeah, now I gotta pee. I want some water.
Fix my blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Every day.
Yeah, it's just, every parent has that same.
Right.
You're like, no, you can't have a snack. You can't have a snack.
Then
And then you're like, okay, you can have an apple.
That's right. Oh
It's like,
gosh, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, because they're gonna cry until they get it.
for sure. Yeah,
It's so good.
it's great.
Oh man. All right. So have the personality, just feel connection. You want to be a person who's connected to people. You like talking, you like being with people. Go to college, do the thing with the mascot, the secret life of mascot, and meet your wife,
That
graduate.
could be another podcast.
That's right. We could have you wear it, and then we could have somebody else from somewhere else, not Alabama.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, so you meet your wife, and what's she doing? Kind of what's her parallel up to this point?
Yeah. So, so she's at that point in time. So she she's a year ahead of me in school. And so
Older woman.
She's older, 2 years older, actually.
Oh man.
I know. Got lucky.
That's right.
So she's definitely more wise than me. So that's a good thing. But, so when she graduated, she did a year master's program for teaching.
Okay.
And so, we both got to graduate theoretically at the same time when she was, getting her master's in education. And then I was, getting that's actually switched degrees from biology to kinesiology, with a minor in biology, which, studying of human movement and just kind of how that operated actually helped me more in dental school than a biology major learning about a cell. I'm learning like practical things with the body, and how it move, muscles and all that stuff. So that was cool. But yeah, so we got to graduate together at the same time, which was special. It was actually in the same college because I was in kinesiology at that point.
Oh, that's cool.
And so yeah, and we literally, I think it was a week later, we got married. So
what was your favorite thing about her when you met
her? There's a lot.
Top three.
I think that she's a friend to everyone. I think her innocence, but most importantly is her relationship with Jesus. That's you kind of tear up thinking about it, right? Because it's like someone who pushes you and drives you and becomes a better you, And so I think that she does that, I think that she does that every day. And we all have our own, pitfalls. And so
of course
she's there to pick it up. Yeah. So
it's good stuff.
It's cool.
Man.
Yeah. So that
appreciate the vulnerability.
Oh, dude, for sure. I mean, that's about us being humans, right? I mean, I think it's important that we are who we say we are. We are what we do. We practice what we do. And so, in order to be a relationship-based individual, you have to be able to be vulnerable too. I feel like.
Yeah, cry about how much you love your wife. It's good stuff.
So we got married. We got married at the Myrtles plantation in St. Francisville. That's where my wife is from, is St. Francisville, which is the Myrtles plantation. I don't know if you know, but it's a haunted plantation.
Oh, nice.
Her aunt, they call her Aunt Tita, owns the plantation. So
okay.
We got to get married there. I think we were the last wedding there. I could be wrong, but
we'll say you were.
Yeah, we will say we were.
Yeah.
But it was a cool it was a cool thing. It was we had a lot of friends there, and so as soon as literally we got married, we drove to New Orleans because that's where dental school was, and we picked it up from there when our honeymoon came back and started dental school 6 weeks later. So funny thing is when you're sitting around and it's like December 2nd or something like that when you find out if you get in. Like it's at 12 o'clock at midnight. And I remember looking at her. I'm like, if I don't get in dental school, I'm opening up a restaurant. Like I had no need to open up a restaurant or no desire to open up a restaurant.
But you're in New Orleans?
Well, no, I wouldn't know where it would be. I have no idea.
You're just throwing stuff out.
Just throwing stuff out. I mean, is once again, I think at a restaurant, you can create a cool culture with people and still develop those relationships. So I don't know, and treat people well. So that was for me, that was going to be it. That was going to be it. Maybe it's still a goal. I don't know. I don't think it's still a goal.
Well, you got a good in route to knowing more about the restaurant.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think my real, if I could do anything besides dentistry, it would actually be a mixologist. Just sit behind a bar and talk to people.
Yeah. That's what therapy is. You just don't drink.
Yeah. For sure.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah,
well, what you're talking about is discipleship, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's the idea of getting to hear people's stories like we're doing today, love on people. I mean, that's the reason I love doing the podcast is everybody's story, especially if you lace what God's doing in it, is just so cool.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's another little side tangent.
No, it's good. So you get into dental school, do that. How long was that?
4 years.
Okay.
Whole time I'm in dental school. Katie is she's teaching at a school there. Like her second year, she got teacher of the year. I mean, she doesn't know how to like not be
Awesome.
I mean, I would say that, and I think she'd probably be okay with me saying that. I think that one of her biggest flaws is her perfection, like just the need for being perfect, and she is truly perfect, right? And like every way, and everyone sees that, but like that's almost sometimes not as good. But that's why she excelled, right? I mean, everything she does, she puts 100% in, 120% into it.
Yeah.
She doesn't just like, drink a cup of coffee. Like she drinks a cup of coffee, I'm just kidding. I really don't know, but she really does. She's super intentional and is really good about like, she's not going to halfway do something.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So,
so you graduated and what
moved to New Orleans.
Okay.
And just in dental school for 4 years. We had our first son. It would have been my last year in dental school right at the very beginning. And at the same time too, like she's teaching, we both did art together, down there, and nothing crazy. She's way more talented than I am. I was just kind of the cookie cutter artist, I guess. We did all that just so we could have our income to be able to, live off of and, kind of do some of the things we wanted to do. So that was kind of cool, especially that we got to do that together. We started off doing that together, and now she does art. So she's continuing doing that. I mean, on top of being a full-time mom. So she's an art. She's awesome. She's really
I've seen a lot of her work. She does a really good job.
And I love that everything she does is at this point in time is super, there's inspiration behind it. There's a biblical message that something has brought, that she's seen. And it's been, what it's really cool to see is that her art is able to move. It's what she sees, but it also speaks to other people too. And they can also see that message too. Yeah. So that's really cool to see with her.
Yeah. And tell me what her thing's called?
Lowder Art.
That's right. Yeah. I've seen several of her posts, and they're always real emotionally driven and inspirational. And I'm like, that's good stuff. It always makes the art better when there's a story.
For sure. Oh yeah. Hands down.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. So what brought y'all back to Shreveport?
Being a dentist.
Okay.
So, in dental school, I met my now business partner, Reed Moore. He's from Benton, and we both kind of had that same mindset of relationship-based dentistry. And, a lot of our friends that graduated, pretty much everyone in our class except for one, went on to become a part of a group practice. And we knew, like, that's where dentistry is right now. I mean, there's all these corporate practices and all these corporate things that are happening, and you don't learn a thing about business in dental school. You don't learn all you learn is like how to fix teeth, and so
which is interesting, because if you go back and listen to all the podcasts, the people that I have on here, this is kind of all of our stories,
right?
Like the grad school and dentist school and med school. Right. There are these systems of people who have created these things that make money and bring in income and make you buy licenses and follow these things, but they don't actually teach you to do the thing that you're going to get out and do. Right. It's crazy.
And we're in such a fear-driven environment now that, like, what if I try to go do this and I don't succeed? Mm-hmm. And I think that at that point in time when we knew we wanted to open up the business together, we were in the middle of, we were about to do something, and it fell through. And so that brought us together more, but allowed us to be like, we don't need anybody else. Thank goodness it didn't happen. We're enough, and we know what we want to be able to provide. And so I think at that point you start to determine, like, people say, like, where's your level of success? How do you become successful? And I think that's such an objective term, because it's like, level of success is driven or determined by where your headspace is. Mm-hmm. Like for me, success was graduating dentistry, from dental school.
You're like, I won.
I've got a degree. Yeah. And I know that I get to come back and open a practice and get to love on some people. whether that was 2 people, which it was at first, 1 person a day, cleaning people's teeth. I think that from the beginning, for the first 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah. So let me slow you down. So you're good. It's great. I want to hear it. You get done with dental school, something falls through. So you guys move back to Shreveport, or did it fall through here?
Here.
Okay.
Yep.
And so then you guys, I'm assuming, prayed about it. Like, tell me how kind of faith played into that. Did you learn anything in your faith? Or did it...
Yeah. I think a lot of like learning, when it didn't happen, I was bummed. I was like, it's not going to happen anymore. I don't know what to do, And so I think
a little lost.
And then I think that just the determining factor of just saying, once again, like, you're enough. You've done this far. You've got good people around you. You've got a great support system. You've got a great wife, a good business partner, and you can do it. And so I think it was just that mentality. I think that one of the mottos that I always say in life is like, what's the worst someone's going to tell you is no. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you going to tell me? I was like, ask you can have a Coke right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? You might jump out and say, yeah, here's a Coke.
Yep.
You might say no. So, I mean, it's, that's
such an entrepreneur mind state too. I mean, you have to be able to take those risks, believe in yourself, believe in your worth and value, believe God is in charge of it.
Right. 100%. And no, is no hurtful.
Right. Does it have anything to do with your worth?
No. Yeah.
I think that's a real hard thing for people, is that when somebody says no, that we feel rejected.
For sure.
As if we're less than, or, we were wrong about this plan, or we were wrong about God's plan or the agenda or whatever. And that brings shame, and then that takes the sails out.
Right.
We're dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can learn, I think we've all felt that, but when you go through it and you survive it and you push through, it's like, oh no, he's got this despite my ability.
Right.
100%.
So, I mean, when everything didn't work out, like, we picked out our name, we got on the phone with
Southern Roots. How'd that come about?
I think Katie came up with it, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so one of Katie's best friends from high school, her husband is a graphic designer in Nashville. And we got him to design the logo, and he still does all of our stuff to this day. Great marketing, man. I
love seeing you and Preston signs, or you, Preston and Sarah, together. It's always such a good, hilarious.
It's fun,
dude. That's so good.
It's fun, but using him, and our brand, our motto is faith, family, community, right? Like, we wanted to be faith driven. We wanted to be, treat everybody as if their own family. And then really focus on giving back to the community as well, because that's why we're here. I think it's almost selfish in a sense to not do that.
Yeah.
And so having that foundation has really kind of elevated us forward in terms of, like, that is the level that we want to just our foundation that we just, like, stand on.
Yeah, it's so good, man.
But I mean, like, going back to it, I mean, when we opened everything up, like, we literally, I mean, I had odd jobs at the beginning. I worked in, I've worked in nursing homes. I worked at a couple other offices in town, and all of which kind of just led me to, it helped obviously where we need to be, but I had to do that when we first opened the business, and Reed was doing the same thing. Cause we didn't have the patient flow. Mm-hmm. We were cleaning our own teeth. We could not afford a hygienist. Mm-hmm. And so
been there, man.
Yeah.
Not cleaning the teeth, but doing the work.
For sure. So, but I think being in that level and being in that foundation, being in that moment, you learn to appreciate everything else. I mean, something we tell our staff every day is that, like, we can't expect for you to do anything that I wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it's so important as the quote unquote boss.
And that's such a weird thing.
It's such a weird thing.
I think for relational people, that's really hard. Like, I want everybody to be my peer.
Friend.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be your friend.
But you can't.
You can't.
Not all the way.
Not all the way. For sure. but I just, it's so important that you value, I think that pushing and loving on your employees first, then that trickles down to your patients.
Definitely.
So,
and you can trust, right? That you like, I love that we were just talking about this yesterday. I had one of my favorites walking out, and I sent her a client, and the client had texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, she's amazing. I've seen her 4 times. It's been great." She was like, "Well, thanks for the referral." I'm like, "Thanks for being a person I can send you people, and I trust, I can say 100% everybody who's here, I do see as a peer and I do see as a friend, even though I'm a leader, but also like they're doing their own work and amazing work, and I get to send them people, or they get internal referrals for themselves because of their good work, and it's so nice that I can go home and sleep knowing that's the case."
For sure.
But that means you gotta lead in that way,
right.
and love on people and serve them.
Right.
Have a servant leader mentality.
And I'm not perfect at it, right? Like, I mean, I'm far from it, and but I want to be,
Well, it's new.
Yeah.
Y'all been open how long?
It was
When
4
did y'all
years
start?
in October.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. So we're on a very, again,
Yep.
me, you, Preston, several other people that we know
Yep.
on this parallel 4 or 5 years in Shreveport of opening businesses and then
Yep.
kind of exploding because you've had a lot of growth.
I think that growth has just been kind of, if you're treating people well and you're treating them right, like, once again, I'm not perfect. I'm not the perfect dentist, but I want to be, and I try to be. I think it's important that we continue to grow and continue to listen to what's out there that's new and try to implement certain things that you take in things, but then also still apply the fundamental things that, you need to do.
Definitely. So you have how many offices now?
We have 4.
Yeah. Where are they at?
We have 2 in Shreveport, 1 in Mansfield, and then 1 in Minden.
Nice.
And so, all of that stuff is just something that I think that, once again, I think is just being obedient, right? Like, kind of treating people well, treating people right, and things just kind of fall into place. And having that as your foundation, and then moving forward with, obviously, Christ there. But I mean, I think that it's
hard work, but it's easy.
It's easy when you have a great staff and a great team.
Yeah.
We have, so kind of going back to being me and Mike, our office manager or practice manager, Abby Howell, she was a golden girl at LSU. And so that's kind of how I met her. And then Reed knew her because she's from Benton. And so she started out from day one with us.
Okay.
She was a speech therapist. And so we stole her. And, she is kind of like the ringleader of the epitome of like what you want to have someone who helps lead a team and lead a staff. And just, and helps our business grow. Like I said, having the right people there. Everybody in our staff is just incredible. We always say, like, just do the best you can do. And we also need to think in that mindset that they're doing the best that they can do.
Gosh, isn't that such an important leader perspective? It's like, is to communicate to your staff, like, if you screw up or if you make a mistake, I'm assuming the best.
Right.
Like, I'm assuming that you were doing the best you could.
And that's hard.
Ugh.
That's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, you're not doing your best, but that, like, so then you have to step back and say, well, maybe they are truly doing the best that they can do.
Yeah. Perfection's not achievable. So people are trying really hard.
Right.
I don't know how it is for you, but it's also like they're human beings, and they are hopefully, brothers and sisters in Christ. And so it's like, they also have lives.
Right.
And, yeah, you're a boss, and yes, you're an employer, and yes, you have all these things, but you also, you want to minister to them. And, so it's trying to find that, like, where does that end and begin? And, how do you have the flexibility and patience? And
for sure,
it's like, well, I got to get to know your story some, because I want to have grace for this thing.
Right.
While at the same time, like, you still got to be here. You still got to do this, or we still got to.
At the end of the day, we're there for a job.
Yeah.
But, I tell people all the time, it's like, you don't feel like you're at work, huh? Like, we're just having fun, you know? And so, every once in a while, they're like, no, I know I'm at work. Like, no, you don't. We're having fun.
Right, it's just a blast.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's having a great team. And we have some great doctors too. Carly Gilly, she came as Abby's sister. She came on board with us 2 years ago, after she graduated, and she's phenomenal. So, it's just that's been great. And then in Mansfield, we have someone we graduated with, Morgan Van Zant. She's from Baton Rouge, and she's been up here, and so she kind of took the reins over there in Mansfield, and Dr. Murphy is still working there in Mansfield too. But it's great. It's every day is something new, right? I mean, like I said, we're not perfect. We think we figure it out, and just when you think you figure it out, you just don't. You know.
Well, and that growth too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have been open 4 years, and so I know what it's like to incrementally grow every year. And it's like right when you figure out taxes and paying things off and expansion and employees and all these things, it's like, okay, we have 7 people, and then you have this many people, and then you have this many things, and it's like every year is a totally different business model.
Totally different.
Which is awesome.
Right.
It's a great problem to have.
Right.
But it's a problem.
Yep. It's a great problem to have for sure. But it's a fun challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I don't like complacency, you know, and so I can't just sit.
Yeah,
you know,
not like the slow lane.
No, I can't do it. So
especially when you see the potential, and especially when you're relational.
Right.
If we were talking about the difference between your goal and your mission, right?
Right.
And so, obviously the goal is to make a budget so you can pay for everything. You have to make money, you have to make income so you can expand. You can't expand without income. But your mission or your
debt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's more debt? That's
Right.
where we're at right now. What's more debt? But
Right.
Continue.
No, but so then you have your purpose and your mission. And if you get, what I've had to learn, and this may be where you're at or maybe helpful, whatever, is when you're focused on the goal, then if someone leaves or something changes or there's a problem or there's a switch, you freak out.
For sure.
Right? Because it's taking away from the goal. It's like, well, I have to have this level of money to do the thing. But I'm having to learn to just continually focus on the mission. And I think that's what it sounds like your mind state is about what Christ is doing in your life, what Christ is doing in the community, what Christ is doing through your dentistry and your team and your people. And then if something changes, it's like, well, the purpose is still here. The goal, the mission's still here, but yeah, it changes the goal a little bit, but
for sure,
that'll be fine.
For sure.
But that's such a hard, as a business owner, for me, it's just constant dance.
Right. It's super hard too, because being community-based and community-minded, I mean, you get asked almost every day to support something in the community. And that is one of the most challenging things ever, because you just want to say yes.
You want to sponsor everything.
Yeah, I want to say, yes, I will, we want to help out, but it's and that's a hard part, because those organizations are dependent upon people in the community. And if they don't get what they need, then will they be able to do what they're trying to do or do what they need to do?
Definitely.
And so that is challenging. But at the same time, we try to be, every year since we've opened, every October we give away however many years we've been open money to something.
That. It's awesome.
So, every year. So far, I think in total, just over the 4 years, it's been $10,000 just going back to the community.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for us to stay every year when, it comes up, maybe one day when it's year 20 and we like, what the heck are we doing? We'll look back and think that might be crazy, but that's so important, right? Because it's like, you're once again giving back to the community that has supported you and giving back to someone who is deserving.
Yeah, man.
Or an organization.
Well, we wouldn't be here without the people who come.
Right.
100%. I was texting with a client this morning from a session yesterday and just, hey, how are you? And she was like, oh my gosh, that was, great. That was super helpful, blah, blah, blah. Thank you. And I'm like, well, you did the work.
Right.
You showed up for this session. You talked about XYZ. You worked through it. I'm just facilitating.
Right.
And just keeping that mind state too of like our community, the people who support us, who hear our heart. It's this dance of you have to have the heart and be that person. And I think God draws them in, but then they're the ones who are the ones coming in and doing the thing and paying and, being a part. We talked about this a little bit before the podcast, but one of the things you do as a servant orientation kind of focuses serve with the hub and purchase. So can you talk about what that's been like? And so for people who don't know, purchased, not for sale, and the hub urban ministry is a ministry here in town. They help with homelessness and poverty and human trafficking, women and children. And so we partner with them. We've helped for years with that and supported them. And so you have been doing that from a dentist perspective. So can you talk about how you've been doing that?
Yeah, we started doing that probably about 6 months ago. And, you know, it's a really, we've done stuff in the past, not with them, but like we worked with the DA's office with battered women and try to get them kind of back on board. And that's kind of led us to this. Everyone deserves love, right? Like everyone deserves love. They deserve the time. Not everybody has afforded the opportunity of that time and that love. Sometimes, you know, when it comes to people, some people will not be able to walk in our office and get, you know, and receive that. So we do our best to provide that for everybody. And that was one of our ways that we could really love on and serve on those people in that area at the hub, and just understand, kind of get to know them a little bit. And man, like I've with the dentures you deliver, the teeth that you fix, you know, they're crying, and you're like, you can't help but cry too. Mm-hmm. You can't. And they're saying like, thank you so much. And and to us, and even our staff are such great leaders and such great like just people who foster that great and welcoming environment, that they also feel the same way of, gosh, I mean, truly the person that's coming in there has done more for them and us than we have done for them. And we believe that, you know? And so I think that, I mean, we're lucky, you know, we're lucky we get to see them, mm-hmm. you know, and I think and keeping that mindset. I mean, like it's pro bono, but, you lose out on it, but you don't lose. That's right. Like you said, you go to bed at night and you get to sleep, you know, a good sleep, knowing that, you know, you fulfilled and you helped them. And like I said, they've helped more probably than I've ever helped them.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I've learned more from working with the Lovewell and working with Purchased, you know, about myself, about God, about people, you know, some of the best, kindest, most amazing, you know, biblically sound people, you know, and so I'm proud of you, man. I love that you're jumping in on that and have been doing that. And I know that, you know, as you move forward, you'll see all kinds of awesome stuff come out of it. What'll be amazing, and I'll kind of speak this in existence, but what'll be amazing is when you've been doing it 2 or 3 years and you start seeing people come back and you start seeing people's lives change, and maybe you see their kids, and sure. You know, it's this crazy manifestation of God's restoration and reconciliation ministry that He's given us. And so I just think it's so cool that you're doing that as a dentist, you know, because honestly, James, like that, you know, that's what I feel like we get to do every day as counselors, and because that's literally what we're doing. You know, it's the conversation is about these emotions and these histories and these traumas. But my whole spew, right, on the podcast, Beat the Dead Horse, is like everybody can be doing that. Right. You know, whether you're a lawyer or a dentist or a doctor or a therapist, like the meat of what I do is the same thing everybody has the opportunity to do. So I think it's really awesome, you know, that y'all are doing that and your staff's doing that from that perspective.
Yeah, I think just like you said, everybody is afforded the opportunity to build a relationship. I don't care if I'm seeing somebody and I'm prepping a crown on them, or I'm doing a filling, or I'm coming in for a hygiene check. They still deserve the opportunity on top of that. Like, that is a bonus of that might be why they're there. But in our eyes, they're there so that we can serve them. Mm-hmm. So, and that goes beyond the hygiene check or the crown prep or the filling. It's being present and being mindful of who they are, what their needs are. And it's also tapping into their life. Like what, you know, we deal with a lot of stress. We see a lot of patients with TMJ issues. And more so even since COVID. Wearing the masks, being stressed about money, being stressed about loved ones, being stressed about their next job or anything. And a lot of times that stress boils down to at nighttime, and they're taking it out on their teeth and they don't realize it, or their jaw. And so it's that moment when we get to be a little bit of a therapist, but not cool like you, but we get to just kind of counsel people through that. But then really, once again, they're there for dental work, right?
Yeah.
But trying to find a way to balance it both, but really give them the time that they deserve.
Well, yeah, and that goes into what we were talking about before, of just like however I can help and we can help you guys. If you feel like that's something that's a call that you have, like that's what we love doing here with the integrative wellness side is partnering with people, having relationships with the community where we're going in and training you're a first responder. I mean, really, Jenna Watson is our first responder as a chiropractor. We have these different people, and the difference whenever somebody's on her table or somebody's at the doctor, somebody's with Dr. Carter or Dr. Crow or Ashley Rachel or whoever that's on her team is like they have this lens now that they're seeing it through, so that instead of having to feel the stress, number one, of carrying that burden yourself, it's like, okay, I know the things to say and the things to look for, and I can not just give you relief from your physical pain, but I can also send you to somebody who can give you relief from this root cause, which play on words there, which is your heart and your pain there that I don't have time to deal with while you're in my chair, but these people do, and then your TMJ goes away, and so it's like, however we can help with that, I'd love to continue that conversation. But I'm just so like just hearing you say all of them, like, yes, I didn't know what you were going to talk about, so it's nice, like how God knits all this stuff together, man. It's cool.
I think like going back to obedience, right? Like being obedient and just being obedient and being intentional. I think I think those are important things to do, and I think everything, and not every day, like I said, is perfect. Not every day I'm not the best. I've been told that I'm a terrible texter. I mean, like I'm an angry texter.
Oh yeah.
I put too many periods, not enough emojis and exclamation points. But and that's something that I'm working on now that I've been told.
Brought to your awareness.
For sure, been brought to my awareness. So now I'm working on that.
You're like heart eyes emoji, just to let you know I'm joking or love you.
Yes, for sure. Because they're like, oh, he's on it today. And you're like, I'm not. I'm just like, that's just how I text.
Yeah. That's funny. Isn't it funny, like how, that's another thing where I think people avoid community is that we sharpen each other. We rub against each other. And when you are a leader and you are a boss, like, I tell my staff all the time, please call me out on something if I'm not doing it well or if I say something the wrong way. But I don't really like it.
For sure.
When somebody stops and says, hey, you said that in staff meeting, it kind of felt this way. I'm like, oh, man, I am so sorry that it felt that way. I can see how you'd feel that way. Let me figure out how to say that differently next time. And man, but the trust that builds, I love that staff can come and ask you that. But at the same time, I'm like, ugh.
I know, like, did you mean like, okay? Or did you mean, okay?
Right. Well, in our new world, with texting and emailing, and you can't have a staff meeting for everything. So you are, you're kind of bound to sending messages and trying to like not send them a novel. Right. But also say this thing, but not be too short because you don't want to seem rude and you don't want to seem mad. So it's like, I find myself like prefacing everything like, I'm not mad at all. This tone's great.
For sure. And that's where I've passed a lot of that on to Abby, who's our practice manager. She could write the meanest text ever and it come across as like the nicest thing ever. She doesn't have a mean bone in her body, so she's able to do that. She's so respected with everybody, but it's I luckily don't have to send the long text, but I am bad about sending a small, quick, short text.
For sure. All right, so
if you get a text from me and it's like, cool.
I was just glad you responded.
Yeah.
The good thing about iPhones, right? I was telling you, I updated to the iPhone, is it said delivered, and I'm like, good.
Yeah, good.
But it didn't say you read it, so it was like, and then you said yes, and I was like, okay, good. But it's so funny with that. No, you're good, man. It's hilarious. That's the world we're in. Let me see what else I have for you. What would you say, kind of, to do an infomercial on our podcast? What would you say kind of sets you guys apart, or what is it that you would want, like, kind of listeners or community to know about what y'all do that's different, or that would bring them to you guys? Or
I think that going back to earlier, relationship based dentistry has always been around. It's the mom and pops of every corner, older practice, and so that's what we wanted to continue to bring. But we needed to put a new spin on it, right? Of allowing us to grow, but still bring that intentional relationship based dentistry to life. And so we still have some awesome dentists in this town, like that, just really, have that. and we really have a really good dental community. Pretty much every one of us, we get along. And I think that's really cool. And we're in that moment to try to continue to try to foster that. But for us, it sets us apart. I wouldn't necessarily from everyone else, but it's just that we really and truly just drive home that intention. And we want you to feel like you're the only person there that day.
That's good.
We don't cram ourselves like crazy to see everybody. We actually don't. We're out of network with all insurance companies, but we accept them all and we file and we do all that. But we do that because we don't want insurance to drive our treatment plans.
Yeah.
So like we don't.
Same here, man.
We don't want the insurance company to dictate what we should dictate to you, right? Like our job is to come in and say, "Hey, Miss Jones, this is what's wrong with you, and this is how we can fix it." We're super conservative, but we also know when to take action.
That's good.
And
man.
so, and some people, all of that stuff is important too, that with being in network and whatnot. But a lot of the times we just didn't want that to be what, we didn't want that to take away from the dentistry that we can provide.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just think we're super, when you're there, we want you to know that you're the only one there. And that's hard all the time, right? I mean, there are emergencies that just pop up and you get crazy and you have a few seconds with somebody, but we do stay on time. Our employees, they're great. We stay on time. We get everything done that we need to do. But they all have that same mentality of, Miss Jones is here right now. Let's make sure, she understands that and that how we can, better her experience. I mean, being a dentist, we are like not the most loved profession from anyone at all. And that's, because of past experiences. And so, 30, 40 years ago when dentists went in and said, "Oh no, you're numb, but you're not," and you feel everything, that anxiety gets brought on even to this day of when we're treating people. So
yeah, I still get the gas, man. That's
you don't need it.
Yeah, my PTSD, man. I need it.
You don't
need
it.
Chill out.
You don't need it. No, some people truly need it. Like they really do. But I think that's almost kind of part of the challenge too, of part of the funness of being able to win people over and say, you don't need that. Obviously you can kind of tell someone who really needs it. Yeah, but to just say, look, I want you to trust me. I want to work through this with you. And a lot of times they're extremely grateful and like, I really didn't need that. I'm okay.
That's awesome.
So, we try to be, we're patient.
That's good. I've only been in that situation once in the last 15 years. So, but yeah, it was probably, we were laughing because like I'm terrible with keeping up with flossing in my teeth and all that stuff. And my wife's like the best. And yet she always gets cavities and I never get any. And so it's just this, I'm sure you see that all the time, but it's like this running, it's just, genetics, I guess. But she's like always mad at me and I'm like, I'm sorry. What can I say? Sure. Yeah. You also eat way more candy than I do.
Don't call her out like that. Oh, yeah, that is needed.
No one who's our friend of ours is surprised by that. Especially our kids. We call her the candy monster. You can't have anything in the house. She's gonna eat it. But but I went and just laying on the table, getting held down, haven't had my mouth open. Like I hadn't had it done in 15. I had not been in that position in like 15 years. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it, and I didn't have the time. And honestly, it didn't get no one helped me get there. So it was like, they were just like, yeah, it's fine. And I made it through it, but it was like, whew, it was brutal, But so I think what you're saying is like, there's a way to be that can help calm people before they even get to that point.
And I'm not saying we're painless. Right.
Yeah.
But I think that there's
the pain wasn't the problem.
Right.
It's the held down.
Right.
Can't get up and move.
Yes.
That's what gives me the.
Yeah. But and everyone has their own past experience with that, and so it's a challenge, but it's a I think having an understanding of what somebody's state is in helps you drive treatment, but helps you drive the way to care for them too.
No, that's so good. Just the fact that you are mindful about that is what it is. You know what I mean? Like when I think about talking to you about like when I go into other places and I'm like doing the training, they're not even remotely close to what you're talking about. Like it's a whole new philosophy and mind frame. So the fact that you guys think about it in that way is so awesome, because that is the main thing. It's just being mindful about, hey, this person could be going through this, or they could have had a bad experience before, not just being like, well, I'm good, so why don't you just do what I tell you?
For sure.
And that's most providers.
And that's hard too, because a lot of times your integrity comes into question sometimes, and your ability to treat that. And so it's really easy for you to switch and say, well, you don't trust me, then I don't trust you, I'll see you later.
Right.
But instead of saying, well, why don't they trust you? What's going on? And so a lot of times you get that after the fact. You're like, well, crap, what if she really did have something going on, or what if he really has had something? But I think that anyways, we just try to treat everybody well.
No, that's good, man. I mean, I think that's really deep for people listening, because I think for people who are out there who are listening to this and who are like, yeah, I don't go to the dentist, I don't take care of my teeth because of that.
Right.
I don't care about flossing. I don't want to take my kids. I need this surgery. Like, I mean, the amount of people that walk around in pain all day with their teeth.
And a lot of times I'll fix it when it hurts.
Exactly.
And when it hurts, it's not good.
Yes. And
so a lot of times you can jump on it at first and be good, and it's easy and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Versus, potentially losing a tooth and costing a ton of money to either fix the tooth or get something replaced.
Definitely. But I think you're right on. I think, people, if you're listening to this, and that's you, it sounds like, Southern Roots is the place where you can be safe and you can be cared for, and maybe hopefully eliminate some of that fear you have, or that anxiety you have, or that avoidance you have around, getting help and getting fixed, and cutting that problem off at the pass before you're forced to go in.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I see that a lot. And I mean, we're talking specifically about dentistry, but that's life.
For sure.
I mean, everybody puts off everything, especially us as men a lot of times. Oh, my knee hurts, or it's this bump on here, or this thing on here. It'll be fine. It'll go away. And it's a major problem for major money and major stress when you could have just.
For sure. I will say men are the biggest wimps, though.
Well, yeah, women are way stronger than
men.
If you have a wife who's had a baby and you think that you're stronger than she is, then
you're not.
Yeah.
For sure.
And just being moms in general.
Yeah. Like men being sick. I mean, I'm one of them. It's like I've got.
Oh, man, you get man colds?
Oh, terrible. I mean, like part of it is like milking it so that you can just like lay there. But the other part is like the truth. Versus like my wife is like, if she's in the bed sick, it's like because she's in the bed sick.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I hear that. It's funny. We laugh about that all the time. Yeah, no, I'm. That's probably the one way that I don't get man colds. My wife is always like, if you go lay down, that means someone's dying. Right. And that's not because I'm strong. That's because I'm like super stubborn and don't want to feel bad about not helping. And that's a whole nother thing. I'm working on in therapy. But she's always like, go lay down. Like she's fine with it. I'm on. My unhealthy goes on the opposite side. My like arm could be falling off. I'm one of the guys who's like, you need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, oh no, babe, I'm good. This will be fine. And I'm learning that, I need to go to the dentist and take care of it and go to my 6-month appointments and not let them lag and be a year,
For sure.
Because I'm just, doing 100 things at once, and I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself.
I mean, I'm the same way with all my doctor's appointments. I have a lot that I need to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even us as dentists, I mean, the last time I had my teeth cleaned, I mean, I think it was somewhat recently, but, we don't
always practice what you preach.
Yeah. I mean, because we don't have time to either.
Yeah, we don't make time.
We don't make time. You're right. We have the time, we just don't make it.
That's right. Have you read what's his name? The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
I have not.
Okay, you should read it. As a business owner and just a Christian, it's really good.
I'll get that time.
John Mark Comer. I'll text it to you. But one of the things he talks about is like, people asking for more time in the day. People say, oh, if I had more time in the day, I'd do this. And his point is, no, you wouldn't. If you had 8 more hours, you would fill it with 8 more nonsense hours of entertainment or whatever stuff that you do. You'd busy yourself with more clients. If your heart's not centered on Christ and focusing on being present and being, here in the relationships, then it's not time that you lack.
For sure.
And I think a lot of times that's how we think in the American mentality. I got to see more clients. I can do one more thing. I can build one more thing. And if we got more time, we just do that.
Right.
And so I'm trying to learn and teach, for all of us to be mindful and in the moment and see, like we were talking about, like what success is. I think that's that's a whole nother podcast episode, but I feel like we're teaching our kids and young adults that success is money and, business and prosperity and, success in material goods and fame. And I don't know about you, but I don't like people knowing who I am.
For sure.
I don't mind it. It definitely tweaks the ego every once in a while, but I'm trying real hard every day as we get bigger and things grow and this podcast takes off and all those kind of things to be like, yeah, but it's not all it's cracked up to be. There's a lot of responsibility,
right?
A lot of pressure, and so if we can just keep being humble, keep leaning into Christ, keep seeing He's doing all that, but also like Paul, be confident that He's brought you there. And I think that's the hard balance, right? Is like He's given you this ministry, He's given you Southern Roots, you're growing, you're doing amazing things, you're taking care of people well, and because of that, He's blessing you. But continuing to keep that about Him,
for sure,
is the life's work.
Right. Humility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any closing thoughts or remarks or things you wanted to cover that we didn't?
I don't think so. I think we did a good little number here, and thank you for, asking to be on. Once again, it's like, are you sure I'm the right person to sit here on this couch and have this conversation? And it's, I don't think I'll ever know that answer. Like for me, right, you might say something, but for me, I don't think that I'm the right person. But I think what's cool is that I'm really big into perspectives right now. So like listening to other people's perspectives and ideas and ideals and what makes them is a very fascinating thing for me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you listening to my perspective.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate your vulnerability, and I think God does in these podcasts what He does, and I think people get tremendous value out of hearing people's stories, because the truth is everybody who's listening to podcasts right now, sometimes people are listening to it for entertainment value and just to numb out, but podcasts like ours, people are listening to it to find hope. Right. Because they're driving to work, doing their job, they're parenting their kids, they're loving their spouse, they're doing their church thing, they're trying to find whatever the meaning of life is, and the more stories we get to hear, the more this tapestry that God's painting is put before us, and the more we get to see our part of it. I think it reminds me of one of my favorite things to talk about is Job. We hear it so much in one way, but the thing that I love about stories in Job is, you have these two parts. One, Job goes to God, and God's like, who are you to question me? I'm so big. And he says, did you hang the belts on Orion? Did you tell the waves where to stop? Did you put the stars in the sky? Just this massive God who, like, you can't even, like, how are you even thinking you can think in His plans and His ways and all these kind of things? And about halfway through that kind of God letting Job have it somewhat, it says, are you in the woods when the doe gives birth to the fawn? And so all of a sudden it, zeroes in on, like, not only am I this big, amazing, I'm going to try to get through this without crying, big, amazing God, but I am so intimately involved in all of the details of your life.
Right. And
I'm not too far removed. Like, it goes back to relationships. I am not too far removed to see what no one else is seeing. It's the whole, if a tree falls in the woods, does somebody hear it? God does.
Right.
Because He sees the doe give birth to the fawn. And so if He does that, right, if He dresses the flowers, if He feeds the sparrows, if He does all these things, all of us, but everybody listening, like, He sees you. Right. And I think in these stories, you get to see, man, just God loving on His children, and you're one of them.
Well, I think that goes back to, going back to that perspective too, and what you're viewing and seeing these stories here, and listening to people too, and trying to be relatable. For me, like, I had COVID back in November, and it was super isolating. Like, it was like very, very difficult. And I know this like sounds silly, but, listening to your kids cry and, not being able to help out and not be able to do anything. And I had enough TV. It was just too much, watching your kids play outside through a window, not being able to take part in all that. And I think at that point it was for me that I just was like, you start to realize too, one, rely on God, right, to get you through all that. But two, like, this is how a lot of people feel. a lot of people feel that isolation. They feel that, they want to be able to play with this or be able to take care of their kids and all that stuff. And sometimes they're present, but they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so
without COVID.
And so for me, it was one of those things of that's where I've got that perspective mindset of trying to understand more of that mindset, being more relatable and understanding for people.
It's good. That's the best way to give grace.
Yeah.
God isn't the one person who knows us the most.
Yeah.
And knows everything about us and loves us the most.
Right.
And we think if anybody knows us,
right, or
sees our stress or our turmoil or our choices, they're going to cut us off.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful way to end, man. Is just if you're out there listening and you feel alone and you feel isolated, whether from COVID, whether from your own depression or anxiety, from your fear of taking care of yourself emotionally, physically, there are people in the world, dentists, doctors, therapists, pastors, school teachers, artists, who want to love on you and who want to build a bridge and get to know you and hear your story, no matter what level you're on. And the only thing I think a lot of times that loneliness is a choice. Mm-hmm. We can choose to barricade ourselves in our houses, in our minds, and in our hearts, and keep these walls up. But we can't ever get to connection in people, and it's kind of sometimes a prison of our own making. Sure. And so I just I beg people to every day to unlock the door and go outside. And yes, that's going to bring vulnerability, and yes, that's going to bring some pain. But man, the joy that God will bring into your life is far greater.
Yeah, and I think it's important to call on all the other people, the doctors, the dentists, therapists, the artists, all these people, that they're open to those people, that they're intentional about understanding that not everyone that walks in that door is perfect. They're far from it, and they might need a lot of love. And so I think that's like, there's that one perspective of that person that desires that want, but you also have to be open and receptive to receive that too.
It's good stuff. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening. James Lowder with Southern Roots Dentistry. It'll be fun to see where you go in the next couple of years and the next decade of God moving in your life and in your family and in your practice and what I would call your ministry. And so thanks for coming on and giving me the time. Please subscribe, leave us a comment, share our podcast. We will be having a Patreon page drop in the next, I'm going to say 2 weeks so that it gives me some accountability, but you'll be able to sign up and get more videos, shorter videos, daily videos, live Q&A. I'll explain all that on the video. So anyway, thank you and God bless you and have a good week.